The words left my mouth as a throwaway joke,
I've
the
been
kind you make
thinking.
when you're tired and trying to lighten the mood after a long shift. But when Sarah showed up at the diner the next morning with 2 suitcases and eyes that had clearly seen no sleep, asking if my offer still stood, I realized that sometimes the universe doesn't care whether you're joking or not. Sometimes it just decides you're exactly where you need to be, whether you're ready or not. I'd known Sarah for exactly 3 weeks. She was the new waitress at Mel's Diner, the kind of place where the coffee's always hot, the pie's always fresh, and nobody asks too many questions about why you're working the graveyard shift. She'd started mid-December, right when the holiday rush made everyone cranky and the tips somehow got worse despite people's supposed Christmas spirit. While the rest of us complained about sore feet and difficult customers, Sarah just smiled and kept refilling coffee cups like her life depended on it. Maybe it did. I noticed things about her that didn't quite add up. The way she flinched when the kitchen door slammed. How she always took the earliest shift and stayed for the latest one, volunteering for doubles that would kill most people. The fact that she never, not once, mentioned going home. When the other servers talked about their plans after work, their families, their apartments, their roommates, Sarah would just nod and redirect the conversation back to them. It was 2 nights before Christmas when I made the joke. We'd just finished a brutal dinner rush, the kind where a family of 8 splits one entree and leaves a $3 tip on a $40 bill. Sarah had handled them with the same grace she showed everyone, and I'd watched her pocket those 3 singles like they were gold. As we were cleaning up, she mentioned she was going to stay and help prep for the breakfast shift. "Sarah, it's almost midnight," I said. "Don't you want to go home?" Something flickered across her face, gone so fast I almost missed it. "I'm good. I could use the extra hours anyway." I was exhausted, my empathy filters completely shot. "Girl, you practically live here. Do you want to move in with me or something? At least then you'd have a shorter commute." She laughed, but it sounded hollow. Maybe I should. I thought that was the end of it. Just another joke between coworkers who were too tired to think straight. I clocked out, drove to my tiny 1-bedroom apartment, and collapsed into bed without even changing out of my uniform, the smell of fryer grease following me into my dreams. The knocking started at 7 a.m. Persistent, apologetic, but steady. When I finally dragged myself to the door, still half asleep and definitely cranky, there was Sarah. Her makeup from yesterday was smudged, her eyes were red-rimmed, and she was standing next to 2 beat-up suitcases that looked like they'd seen more miles than they should have. "I'm so sorry," she said, and her voice cracked on the word sorry. "I know you were probably joking, but is your offer still good?" I should have been annoyed. I should have explained that I'd been kidding, that my apartment barely fit me, let alone another person. I should have asked why she wasn't with family or friends or literally anyone else. But standing there in my ridiculous pajamas with cartoon cats on them, looking at this woman who'd shown up to every shift with a smile despite whatever was clearly crushing her from the inside, I just stepped aside. "Come in," I said. "Coffee." The story came out slowly, over terrible instant coffee and the stale donuts I'd brought home from the diner 3 days ago. Sarah had left her husband. Not left like some dramatic revelation, but left like when you finally escape. Something that's been slowly killing you. She'd been sleeping in her car for 2 weeks, using the diner's bathroom to get ready for shifts, storing her clothes in her locker. The shelters were full, and the waiting lists were long. She'd been saving every penny for a security deposit on a room somewhere, anywhere, but rent in our city was brutal, and on a waitress's salary, it felt impossible. "Why didn't you say something?" I asked, even though I already knew the answer. Pride. Shame. The same reasons people suffer in silence every single day. "I was handling it," she said, not quite meeting my eyes. "But last night it got so cold, and I couldn't do another night." When you made that joke, it was like the universe throwing me a lifeline. Even if it was just a joke. It wasn't a joke anymore. The first week was awkward. My apartment wasn't built for 2 people, and we had to develop an elaborate dance around each other in the tiny bathroom and kitchen. Sarah insisted on sleeping on the couch despite my protests. She contributed every penny she could to groceries and utilities, usually more than her fair share. She cleaned obsessively, like she was trying to earn her place, and it took me 3 days to convince her that she didn't have to pay rent by scrubbing my entire apartment until it sparkled. You're doing me a favor too, I finally told her. I've been lonely here. It's nice having someone to talk to who isn't asking for extra ranch dressing. That got a real laugh. Slowly, she started to relax. We fell into a rhythm. We'd watch terrible reality TV together after our shifts, critiquing the drama while eating whatever random combination of foods we could scrounge from my kitchen. She told me about her ex-husband, about the years she'd spent making herself smaller and quieter, about finally realizing that she deserved better than walking on eggshells in her own home. I told her about my own messy past, my family drama, the reasons I'd ended up in this city with no backup plan and no safety net. We were both starting over. We were both trying to figure out how to be okay. After a month, something shifted. Sarah started looking at apartments again, but without the desperate edge she'd had before. She'd saved enough for a deposit, maybe even first and last month's rent if she was careful. But every time she showed me a listing, I found reasons why it wasn't quite right. Too far from work, sketchy neighborhood, bad reviews from previous tenants. Finally, she called me out. "You don't want me to move out," she said. It wasn't a question. I could have lied, could have insisted I was just being practical, looking out for her safety. But we'd been through too much for anything less than honesty. "You're right," I admitted. "I don't. But not because I feel sorry for you or because you owe me anything. Because somewhere in the last month, you became my friend. My best friend, actually. And this apartment that used to feel too small now feels like it's exactly the right size for both of us." Sarah's eyes filled with tears, but she was smiling. "I was hoping you'd say that. Because I've been looking at 2-bedroom apartments. I thought maybe we could split the rent. Officially. As roommates. If you want." We moved into a bigger place 2 months later. It wasn't fancy, but it had enough space for both of us to breathe, to grow, to heal. Sarah started taking community college classes in the morning. I picked up a second job that actually had health insurance. We adopted a cat from the shelter and named him Espresso because we're both terrible at naming things. Sometimes I think about that night, about the joke that wasn't really a joke, about how close Sarah came to spending another frozen night alone in her car. I think about all the moments that had to align perfectly for her to knock on my door that morning. If I'd worked a different shift. If I'd been in a worse mood. If I'd said no. But I didn't say no. And that changed everything. A year later, standing in our apartment while Sarah practiced for her final exam and espresso purred on my lap, I understood something fundamental about humanity that I'd somehow missed before. Kindness doesn't have to be grand. It doesn't require perfect timing or unlimited resources. Sometimes it's just opening your door when someone needs a place to land. Sometimes it's turning a careless joke into a genuine promise because someone needs you to mean it. We save each other. That's what humans do when we're at our best. We show up. We make room. We offer what we have, even when it doesn't feel like enough. And sometimes, if we're really lucky, those small acts of kindness ripple outward in ways we never could have imagined, turning strangers into family and transforming lonely apartments into homes. Sarah got an A on that final, by the way. We celebrated with cheap champagne and expensive pizza, and when she thanked me again for that morning, for saying yes, I just squeezed her hand. "You would have done the same for me," I said. "In a heartbeat," she replied. And I knew, without a doubt, that she meant it.